All right, so
First off, the first reason why I'm here is probably because my Uncle John. So my Uncle John, who you know me, you know I have an Uncle John. Basically, is the reason why I'm here. He has an intellectual disability. So he is probably 65, probably getting to be 70 years old. He has an intellectual disability. So what does that mean, intellectual disability? It means he has a lower IQ than the typical individual. So individuals with intellectual disabilities, it doesn't mean you can't socialize well, it just means that you just have a lower IQ. So at birth, he had umbilical cord around his neck, deprived oxygen, wasn't supposed to be abnormal pregnancy, happened to be abnormal pregnancy back then, couldn't fix the issue, had an intellectual disability throughout adulthood, has been living with his grandparents until a couple weeks ago. My grandma just passed away actually. So he's been pretty independent. He drives his own car, he works full time, and he has just needed a little bit of assistance from my dad coming to my grandma's and kind of checking on him, seeing how things are going, making sure he's got good social life, that type of thing. But typically with individuals with intellectual disabilities, you'll find that they kind of get outcasted in society. Eventually, at a certain age, they just kind of get isolated, and it's not their fault. It's just kind of just how society is. We just kind of forget that there's people who need that support system in order to have social life. So remember that these individuals that we'll work with are going to probably become people like my uncle who live a pretty isolated life throughout adulthood. They may get involved in Special Olympic programming, and that's going to be the most social thing that they do, or they get involved in dance programs, or they get involved with other occupational recreational activities, but that's their livelihood. And a lot of these parents who are good supporters of their child with disabilities, they will take them to Miracle League. They will take them to places like I Can Do It, our class here on Saturdays and in the summer. They will reach out to Special Olympics, but then you're going to have individuals that have physical disabilities, who physically can't participate in team sports. Cerebral palsy, could be spina bifida, where they only have upper body ability. So you have to think, well, what can they do? Well, they can get involved in Paralympics, right? Paralympics is when you have a physical disability, but not an intellectual disability. Someone with cerebral palsy or spina bifida, they will utilize a wheelchair most likely. And so there's a physical disability. We just talked about like spina bifida, cerebral palsy, where your muscles become spastic or very hard and dense and very tight. Someone with cerebral palsy, if they're holding something, it'll be really hard to extend their elbow. And so you'll work on things like range of motion. You want to get them in the pool and get them into aquatic therapy, get them in a tricycle just to get their legs moving. They might be doing different activities as other people are doing running activities. So if we're doing locomotor skills, I'm not going to have them, I might, if to be inclusive, I could have them go with the pack, and let's just say we're doing laps, but I'm going to want to try to get them to do some type of tricycle or maybe some battle rope just to get some type of physical activity in. Then there's individuals with social impairments. So this is known as autism spectrum disorder. So you have the three domains of learning: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. As PE teachers and adaptive physical educators, we are well versed in Bloom's taxonomy of how people learn. People learn through the three domains of learning: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Cognitive is your intellect, social is your behavior, and physical is your ability to move well. And so you have people with physical disabilities, you have people with intellectual disabilities, and then you have people with social disabilities, which is the autism spectrum disorder, which most people don't get, and I didn't get as an adaptive PE teacher for at least 10 years after working with people with autism, what it is and what it means to have autism. So autism spectrum disorder is a social communication deficit that increases the likelihood of having resistant or reflective behaviors or resistant behaviors and repetitive behaviors or ritualistic behaviors. Sometimes that's the clapping or the kind of the movements that they do that they don't really intend on doing. Automatic, autism, it's automatic. There's no stopping the movements, there's no stopping maybe the social deficit that they have. There's no stopping their rationale of how they're going to speak. Some of them might be nonverbal, so they might have different communication patterns. Or some of them are just, you don't know, like you look at them and you're like, I don't know what the disability is. Like sometimes you don't see disability. You might see intellectual disability in some type of way, just when it comes to the facial features. But when it comes to individuals with Down syndrome, yes, you're going to have wide set eyes, typically going to have the tongue that might stick out. The features of Down syndrome are pretty well known. So that is something that you can say, oh, I think that individual might have a disability, where autism, intellectual disability, you might not be able to see it. So just understand that you might see someone in public and they might be a little bit socially different, or they might have autism spectrum disorder and you might not even know it, or they could have a spectrum. So autism is known as a spectrum of a disorder. So you have individuals that are mild, moderate, and severe. You have the same thing, mild, moderate, severe for intellectual, mild, moderate, and severe for physical. Typically, individuals that have disabilities are 40% chance they have an accompanying disability. So you might see someone with an intellectual disability and autism spectrum disorder. You might see someone with Down syndrome with autism spectrum disorder. And the combinations of disabilities is going to be more impactful and cause more impairments. So just understand that the more disabilities that someone has, the more medical complications they're going to have, the more physical issues they might have, more intellectual disabilities they might have too. So as far as that goes, that's kind of how I was raised. I was raised knowing someone with an intellectual disability. I got my bachelor's degree in physical education and health from Brockport, which is a huge PE school in New York. I transferred here at UNCW in 2009, got my teaching certification. Then by 2012, I got my master's degree in health education online from ECU. I did my graduate internship here at the I Can Do It program. So I was a student teacher in this class in 2010, and then I worked my way up and got my doctorate degree here at Watson in 2014 to 2018. And then I became full-time here in 2017, but I was part-time basically since 2010, working in this program. And then I started teaching and assisting classes like 3D7, 3D6, pedagogy courses, and then in 2020 I got the Adaptive PE Teacher of the Year award for the university level. So I got recognized for my ability to teach adaptive physical activity. So basically, this is my bread and butter course. So if you've been in any of my other classes, this is kind of how I got here. And then the other classes are kind of just classes that I've been able to teach thereafter, okay? That are also big interest in me. First thing we need to talk about is treating people with disabilities. So we just have to understand that you have to kind of go out of your shell when working with someone with a disability. You have to approach them. You have to ask them questions. You can't be the one that's quiet. If you're a quiet person, you need to write down some questions on a piece of paper before you come to class with a 3x5 card if you feel like you don't know what to ask people. Okay, because it's really important. They will wait until you go, some of them will wait until you approach them. So just understand that we're treating people with disabilities with dignity and care. We want to care even around, we want to care for the mentors around us too. So if somebody you see is having difficulty adapting or modifying, or if somebody's trying to do a skill or activity is having difficulty and you think you can help them, you should try and help them. Okay? Every day, every class, I call it a Super Bowl because I feel like every time I'm with my mentees and mentors, like something good's gonna happen, we're gonna have a good day, and I always try to go all out when they get here. So I I always have awesome things planned. It's pretty routine, structured. The good thing about working in the summer class is that you don't have to plan the lessons in this summer because it's 4 weeks, it flies by. It's a very varied curriculum that needs a lot of structure with the chaos that will ensue with having maybe 30 people next week, 30 people the following week. I can't just put on you, hey, I want you to plan this lesson or teach this lesson. I could definitely use you as volunteers and leaders, and if I think you can teach something, I'll have you teach it. But just know that for my fall and spring students, they actually have to come up with a full 60-minute lesson plan and teach the whole class, okay, for one whole day. That's in my gym lab. In my swim lab, you plan 3 total lessons and you're one-on-one with an individual every single week. So just know there's a lot less planning in the summer class, and you kind of get to go along for the ride and just have fun during lab and not really have to worry about what do I need to plan, how do I need to plan it, what are we supposed to do. I got all that covered. So you just come here with a good attitude, have fun with your mentees, and just do your best and just try to give them as much encouragement as possible. So lab and syllabus expectations. Basically, read the syllabus. If you have questions about any assignments, you can ask me after class or before class or through an email. And if you want to go over any assignments via Zoom, I'm open to that all summer long. I got time, okay? When it comes to what you should wear to class, I'm gonna say wear either white or teal or something UNCW, okay? So white, teal, or something UNCW. If it says UNCW on it, great. White or teal, just so we can kind of be one color or one theme while we're here at camp, whether it's UNCW, white or teal, because those are our kind of theme colors. If you can do that, that would be great. Typically, I have individuals wear collared shirts during the fall and spring semester, but I like to have a little bit looser approach in the summer. Lab is mandatory just because we're working with mentees each week. If you have, if you're going out of town, if there's something going on, then you need to talk to me about that as soon as possible after class or through email. Disability overview, so we kind of went over that. We're going to work with people with cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, intellectual disability, autism spectrum disorder. We may see people with spina bifida. We may see other disabilities like ADHD, that type of thing. We may have hearing impairments, visual impairments. You never know what to expect during the summer. But I know for certain we're working with a class of individuals that we work with all semester long. So during the semester, we work with about 20 individuals with disabilities. They all have intellectual and autism disabilities. So some of them have Down syndrome. So I kind of classify Down syndrome into intellectual disability grouping, and then social disabilities with the autism. So we have a combination of 18 to 21-year-old adults that will be coming. 20 of them will be in here. They've been coming each week for the last 10 weeks actually. And if you watch our lab videos from last semester, I definitely would like you to kind of click on those lab videos to see what actually happens in class. I provided some lab videos from past semester in the last email I sent out, so make sure you watch those. We'll be working with 18 to 21-year-olds in that class. There's 20 of them. And then we're going to have maybe 5 to 10 individuals from the community, okay? And I don't know who I get the registration forms, so I know most of them, but there might be some people I don't know. So that's for the first 2 weeks. There's going to be about 30, 35 people here beside us for the first 2 weeks. And then for the last 2 weeks of lab, it's probably just going to be a very light 5 to 10 grouping. So you're going to go from working with a big group for 2 weeks to going to like a smaller group for 2 weeks. So just so you know, okay, don't be surprised that numbers drop, because we're going to lose a whole class of individuals that were coming here with their teachers. So it doesn't mean that they can't come the following couple weeks, but if their parents Like I said, if the parents aren't engaged with extracurriculars, then they probably won't be here, okay? If they are, then they'll sign up and they'll come. So as far as the law goes, you'll be learning about the law, what adaptive PE is, who is an adaptive PE teacher, who can teach adaptive PE, what inclusion is, how can you include people, and then also the law. So you have Section 504, which states that any public or federally owned property has to be wheelchair accessible, has to be accessible for people with disabilities. You will notice that going up to this room here is not ADA accessible. There's no way for someone in a wheelchair to get upstairs, okay? So this building is not compliant when it comes to Section 504. When it comes to things like IDEA, or Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that means that all students with a disability get free special education throughout their entire life. So that means that through IDEA, anyone with a disability gets free education. Okay, so those are two laws, and then within that law states that they are mandatorily have to get physical education. Physical education is on it. Guess what's not on it? English, math, and reading. Okay, or sorry, yeah, English, math, and I think and something else. But PE is the only thing that is actually required by law that students with disabilities have to get through the Special Education Act. Just take that in consideration that PE is required. So anyone that's like being outcasted with a disability, that's against the law, and the facility, the school system, the administration has to find ways to get them included in physical education, okay? Now we're gonna kind of talk about our warm-ups. All right, so when it comes to warm-ups, typically when individuals get in here, you group up with either 1, 2, or 3 mentees. We call individuals with disabilities the mentees. We call the college students the mentors, okay? There is such thing now as a unified champion school where there are no mentor-mentees. It's just kind of, we're all on just one unified program. We're all unified athletes. So that's another way to look at it, but that's how this lab looks at it for the case of this semester. When you see your mentees or individuals with disabilities, typically we do like a walk and talk before we start. So like, let's just say we start at 1 and they get here at 12:55, 12:50. We just want to walk around, so we're not just sedentary. We walk around and talk, kind of get loosened up as we're kind of talking to each other. Once it's 1 o'clock, we begin warm-ups. And I'm really a big proponent in warm-ups. I actually just got an article accepted with Dr. America on warm-ups in Joford. So we just actually did a whole article on how to warm up and why they're so important. Basically, warm-ups are a great way to teach movement skills, and a lot of people just forget movement skills and mobility and dynamic flexibility. They just kind of get right into fitness or right into sport, and they kind of forget that your body needs to warm up. Why? You're going to reduce risk of injury if the muscles are warmer than if they're colder. You're going to have more range of motion, and you're going to probably have better synchronicity when it comes to coordination and balance when we get to the harder exercises like kicking, punching, if we're doing kickboxing, or if we're doing dance, it'll help you with the coordination because you'll be warmed up. Or when we go to sports or fitness and you do something a little bit harder like catching or throwing, you're going to have all the muscles warmed up, ready to go. Plus, it's a great time to assess and do fitness skills. So like if you want to do push-ups or squats or sit-ups, the best time to do that is probably the warm-up, because then after the warm-up in physical education, we get into things like sports and fitness, okay? So the first thing we do with our warm-ups is our in-place standing warm-up. So you can go ahead and stand up for me. So I used to, and I just started changing it this summer. I would have mats set up, and we would do floor exercises and then standing exercises. I've learned my lesson. When you do seated floor exercises, what do people want to do when you come in here and have them sit down on a mat? Just lay down, like get comfy. Like if you have that attitude, or if you see a mat and you just lay down on your back, the last thing you want to do is get up and move. So I'm cutting that out and just gonna start with a standing dynamic as opposed to a seated or any type of mat work. We also have to think about transition time. If you have 5-minute mat exercise, is it worth the transition time to get all those mats out of the way, onto the court when you're only using them for 5 minutes? Or can you use your time more wisely? So things like just a standing mobility. So what we can do is we can just start off with just some slow circles with our neck. Just go one way each way. You can take one arm, go all the way back, nice controlled rotation of the arm, and then switch side. Okay, you can go like this with your elbows, make some circles. You can do this with your wrists, go both ways. If you want to get your back, you can have a wide stance or a regular stance. Flex your chest down, rotate and bend to one side, extend back, other way. Okay, if we wanted to move our hips, we could grab a partner and just do some hip circles, or you can try them, on your own without balance, or you could use the wall. You could do some knee bends just like this in place. You could do some ankle circles, just like that. And that is just very level 1 prehab, rehab type of low exercises that just kind of just are inclusive, because you got to think, do I want to just start off with a lunge? No, like I don't know what people can do and can't do. So I want to look at your range of motion. I want to look at your mobility. Now I want to maybe start challenging you. Okay, things like the warrior. So I'm going to have right foot forward, left foot back. Pretend you're on a train track. So that narrows it. When I say try to be on a train track, so your feet are on the same line, that's just going to help get your hips square. Whereas if I don't say that, you might be out wide. And we're going to bring one arm up overhead. And you can kind of go up and down here. Go ahead and switch side. We'll just call this warrior. This is a crescent warrior because your back heel is up. I'm not doing warrior 1 because that's just too much. I gotta say back foot 45 degrees. I'm not gonna do warrior 2 here. I'm just gonna call this warrior. V stance, so wide feet. So from here I can have my hands in the hips, and then I can bring my hips back, head forward, and then stand up. And you'll feel that stretch in the hamstrings, and then stand up. You could just go hands on the shins. You do one hand down, one hand up. If they can't reach the ground, you could put a basketball there. You could put a block there. These are things you can do in a seated as well. Half squat, so not a hinge and not a squat, so just kind of both a squat and a hinge. So it's just a light knee bend and then right up. Okay, you see football players do these during their dynamic stretching. Okay, now we'll go for the hip hinge. So we're just gonna bend over with the legs straight and then stand up. You should feel that in the hamstrings. And then we can go for our squat. So this is a good time to kind of look at your mentees' squatting ability. Can they keep the heels down? Can they get in between the knees here, or are they having a tough time here? And then we might say, all right, we're gonna go for 3 more squats just like that. Okay? Single leg reach, so feet together, reach forward, one leg off the ground, and then foot back down for balance, and then switch side. Okay? These are all dynamic stretches. What's one stretch that I would, if I were to have you all plan a stretching routine, what would be the first stretch you would probably choose? Would it probably be this one? What about these? Okay. Okay, by far, this might be the most, I guess, most unprepared student is going to teach this stretch. Okay, this is like one of the most, when I see someone teach this, I know that they might not know how to warm somebody up, because what muscle are we stretching when we do this? Not the pec. The pec is getting shortened. The pec will get lengthened, huh? The what deltoid? What one? The rear. How many deltoids are there? 3, the rear. Why do we think this is the tightest thing on our body is our rear deltoid? So you gotta think, what am I doing and why am I doing it? Okay? So then we can get into some seated exercises, like we can go on our legs, or we can go down to the ground. Do something, you don't have to do this one, but we can go into the crab, which is a nice dynamic exercise for seated. Reverse plank, straight leg crab, I like to call it. We call it a reverse plank. We could go and do some core exercises, but I probably won't do them with our mentees just because we don't have mats. But ones that I would plan would be the one knee pull. So I'm just gonna go back and forth one at a time and make sure that my foot touches the ground. And then I can make that a straight leg pull. I could just go leg lowers one at a time with my head down. Okay? And then I can also advance this to my dead bug, and then advance this to a double leg lower. And then if I want to make it tough for them, I can have them do the bicycle crunch, the supine cycle, or we could just go for the sliding sit-up, which is over the knees or on the ground. Okay? So those would be all exercises that I would teach that are pretty inclusive. Okay? Noticing that I was going from easy to hard there. When it comes to prone exercises, things like the cat and cow, so arching the back, flexing the back. Dog up, so you can try this one. So our hands are wide. Just bring those hips up, and then bring those knees down. Bring those hips up, and then bring those knees down. This is one of my favorite upper body exercises for people with disabilities because it's easy. You have to think, what's easy, what's simple, okay? Because when you ask somebody what's a good upper body for somebody with a disability, the first thing they're probably going to say is push-up. But if you're an exercise science major, you should know that most people can't even complete 10 good push-ups without their back bending or they're not going down all the way. So the last thing we want to do is get them in these things like lunges, push-ups right off the bat where they're going to be unsuccessful. So something simple like this might make more sense because it's going to be less pressure. Then we might work to, you might have someone do a wall push-up like this. You could have someone do a wall crawl. So you're getting that horizontal pushing motion, okay? Then you might go for hands and knees push-up, which is pretty fine. Then you can go to just a bear hold. Then you can go to a push-up hold, okay? And then for each hold for about 10 to 15 seconds. Then you can go for a all the way down, hands up, push-up just like that. Then you might go for the regular push-up, but I'm not going to start them off with a push-up. So something like a downward dog up, a push-up hold would be what I would do for the upper body when it comes to pushing, okay? Forearm plank, that's something that would be easy to do. Side plank, a little bit trickier, you're probably not going to get 80% success rate with everybody doing a side plank. So I might just cut that out, okay? What's another way I can get side core? I can have them do a carrying exercise with one arm with a heavy dumbbell or kettlebell, all right? So those are example warm-up exercises. Notice that it wasn't any static stretching. It wasn't any things that you probably are used to seeing when it comes to warm-ups. It's more so actual exercises to get them warmed up, okay, with a real intent to get them warmed up. After the warm-up is over, what we do is we're either going to do dance or kickboxing. Okay, and so for dance, things like YMCA, cha-cha slide, Cuba shuffle, jump on it, hokey pokey, those songs that you've heard of are typically what you might want to start off in the first couple of weeks with a group. But eventually, you want to actually teach them dances, 3-step dances. So putting 3 movements together for 1 to 2 minutes, right? You could also do kickboxing. So after the warm-up, you're either going to do dance or kickboxing. Kickboxing, you're going to punt, you're going to teach the jab, the cross, uppercut, hook. You're going to teach front kick. You're going to teach side kick. And then you might even do like a flying kick, or you can call it the karate kick. Keep going. Okay? They love getting into that. And then what I would do after that is I'd be like, all right, now get into small groups, create your own combo with your group, and then they come up and they show us their combos. For dance, I play a game called freeze dance. I come up, yada, 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 do my 30-second dance, freeze the music, and then I pick a new leader. They come up, they do their own dance, and then we do the same thing. That's called freeze dance. So it gets the mentees involved in teaching. Same thing with kickboxing. I'll have them create combos and then have them come up. That's a higher level of teaching, is when you get them to actually lead other people, okay? So we talked about warm-up and cool-downs, or warm-ups. When it comes to static stretching, that's probably the last thing I would do if I have time. So seated stretches, I might do some breathing exercises before, during the warm-ups, but I'll try to save my static stretches for like a circle stretch or some type of ending stretch at the end, okay? We don't have to go over all of those today. When it comes to low organized games, we're gonna use the parachute. So we're gonna use the parachute on the first day. It's always good to use the parachute with a huge group of people. You don't want to use a parachute with like not a lot of people. Everyone gets tired. There's people missing on the side of the parachute. It's not even worth it. Keep it up, so get some volunteers. So one of the easiest games you can do is, let's just have these 4 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make a circle. We're just gonna keep it up in here. Try to pass it to each other, nice and lightly. Bump it if it feels low. Set it if it's high. Okay? Too much. All right, you guys can sit down. Clap it up. How quick was that game to teach? Pretty quick. That is the definition of a low organized game. So you have low organized games and you have high organized games. What do you think is easier to teach? Yeah. Okay. What do you think is going to be better use of time? Right, so we want to think of the games that you don't need to talk a lot, right? A lot of times our mentees are just going to get lost in our words. One, they're not going to be able to hear anything we're saying. I'd say 50% of communication is totally lost in this gym because you can't hear anybody. So if what we do doesn't look like it makes sense, then it's not going to work, right? Very low organized, not a lot of cues. I was coaching them up while they were doing it. So if I saw a mistake, like they're getting too close to each other, hey, make sure you call it. Or if he hits it too hard, hey, soften the head a little bit. Okay? If it's overhead, it's a set. If it's under the head, it's going to be a bump. Okay? And those are the kind of cues coaches and teachers need to know when you're teaching, because you want to make it accessible, and you want to get them as many contacts as possible. So another game we can play, red light, green light. I'm sure you've all played that game before, okay? So let's have everybody stand up. Let's go to the middle of the court on the white line. Face me, arms distance away from each other if you can, or elbows. When I say green light, you're gonna walk forward. When I say red light, you're gonna stop. When I say yellow light, you're gonna do any of the warm-up exercises that we did, but it has to be in place. Okay? It can be any of the warm-up exercises that we've already done, but it has to be in place. You can't move on yellow light. Green light, walk. Red light, stop. Yellow light, choose your stretch. There you go. Green light. Red light. Red light. Green light. Red light, yellow light, green light. All right, go back to your spots. Okay, low organized, nice. I like it. I like it. He's warmed up. So low organized. Can you add a soccer ball to that? Can you add a basketball to that? Do you have a hockey ball, hockey puck, and a hockey stick? Lacrosse. Yeah. Pickleball and wiffle ball, right? Pickleball, racket, and a wiffle ball, right? Or a poly spot if they can't balance it. How do you adapt that game? Oh, use a poly spot. Use a yarn ball instead of a hockey ball, right? Use a beanbag instead of a hockey ball. So you're like, how do I adapt the game? How do I make the soccer ball easier to dribble, flatten it a little bit, take the air out, or use something else? If they can't reach it because they're in a wheelchair, get a bigger ball. They can't see it, get a better color, brighter color. Get some bells inside of it so they can hear it. So we have to think on the spot. If they can't perform an activity or perform a skill, how do we adapt it as quick as we can? What tools do we have up there and downstairs can we use? And I'll show you the equipment room upstairs in a little bit and our downstairs equipment room. Hungry, hungry hippos. I'm sure you've heard of that. Take all the objects like tennis balls, poly spots, bean bags, scarves, noodles, put it in the middle. Scatter, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of y'all around the equidistantly around the court with a hula hoop. What do you think you do? You go to the middle and you go back to your hula hoop and put your object in your hula hoop. I like that. Use the hula hoop to pull, you could do that. Or if you had like a milk crate, you could do that. We could use scooters, right? You could scoot to the middle and then scoot back. You could run to the middle, run back. You could side step to the middle, grab something, side back. You could skip to the middle, skip back. So it's just locomotor skill, low organized game. Hungry, hungry hippos. Do you use basketballs for hungry, hungry hippos? Yeah, run to the middle, grab a basketball, dribble back, or pass it to the person that's inside the hula hoop. Once they get it, they put it down, they run to the middle, go back. Same thing with soccer. Have 30 soccer balls in the middle, run to the middle, dribble it back to your hula hoop. Hockey, same thing. Run to the middle, bring a tennis ball back. Pickleball, go to the middle and you have to serve a wiffle ball back to your partner that's at the hula hoop. Okay? So not only do you want to know how to teach low organized games, you want to fit them and make them easy to teach through all the skills. So you don't want to be teaching different games with different rules. The red light, green light approach will work for any sport. Hungry, hungry hippos will work for any sport. So you want to stick to those games that make sense and that are transferable to different skills. So you're not reinventing things and getting lost. So once you understand how to teach PE, you end up teaching the same things. You forget about the spontaneity of like, oh, I'm gonna make something up because I didn't want to plan. You're gonna be like, I have a plan with a purpose. Now I know exactly what to teach, and it's not this huge chest full of things I teach anymore. It's a very small thing that I teach. Okay, scattered hoops and beanbags. We could scatter hula hoops all around the middle of the gym. We can have mentees outside the big blue lines here, the boundaries. We can have them with beanbags, trying to toss beanbags inside of the gym where the hula hoops are. We can mark hula hoops for colors. Colors could mean points, point system, that type of thing, okay? You could do the same thing with pins and beanbags. So I could have scattered pins all over the court. Everyone's got beanbags outside the court and they're rolling the beanbag or the tennis ball and trying to knock the pins over. So you're working on fundamental skills like underhand rolling, which is a fundamental movement skill in that first game. And then with the scattered hoops and beanbags, you're also working on underhand tossing skills. And we typically start with underhand tossing, underhand rolling, because those are the easiest skills and most inclusive skills to teach. So we don't start with, we're going to start with volleyball today. It's probably first day curriculum 1, phase 1, adaptive PE is underhand rolling, because it is actually a pretty hard skill if you do it right. Okay, but someone in a wheelchair, can they roll underhand toss? Yeah, so you're already including someone who's might have difficulty. So you want to think, what is those phase 1 skills? Underhand rolling, underhand tossing. Then what skill might I teach after underhand rolling, underhand tossing? Maybe it's an overarm throw, underhand throw. So thinking about softball skills, using a yarn ball, underhand throw, sidearm throw, overhand throw. Then getting into skills like dribbling a basketball. Then getting into skills like how to chest pass, how to overhead throw, how to shot put a basketball to a partner, how to dribble in space, having dribble in space, red light, green light, that type of thing. Then I might get into some soccer skills. Could do soccer first, but doing the toe taps, dribbling in space, passing with a partner, that type of thing. Okay. Flag tag, everyone gets a jersey or a penny. You put it in your side. You get one partner or a group of 3, and you all are trying to grab each other's penny. If you grab someone's penny, you just give it back and you reset. And you try to maybe go up to like 3 or 5 points and then restart. So if we're working together, we're going one-on-one. Now I'm gonna have all the groups work together. So now we're a group, we're going against all the other groups. Now we're gonna have everybody go against everybody. So everyone's trying to get everyone else's flag. But noticing I'm not like, all right, if you get your flag taken off, you gotta go sit out. No, you just back in. Notice I haven't had any games yet that I've talked about that are, oh, if you don't do this, you're out, or it's a long line and we're all just shooting and waiting in line. It's not gonna be like that. Builders and bulldozers, I don't know if you've heard of that. It's where you spread out cones all over the gym. You have one class on one side of the gym, one class on the other. You tell one class to, as fast as you can, knock all the cones down with your elbow only. That way they're not kicking them, that way they're not punching them or anything like that. They have to get down and go like that, which is more dynamic. So how fast does it take you to knock all the cones down? Ready, set, go. Boom. All right, you gotta cross the line. Once you've all crossed the line, I'll stop the watch. 30 seconds. All right, now we're gonna see how long it takes you to pick up all the cones. Ready, go. It takes, let's say, 30 seconds, and then I have the other team go as fast as they can to see if they can beat the other team's record of 30 seconds, try to get 27 seconds. And then you can have games like that. That's called builders and bulldozers or construction destruction. Everyone lined up on this dark blue line right here? No, you're good, you're good. I'm saying you can have everyone get lined up on this dark blue line and get a noodle, and at the same time, like, all right, 1, 2, 3, go, and you kind of throw it like a javelin. So this is a very low organized game where you're working on overarm throwing. but you're also having fun. Another game you can play, which gets into a little bit more high organized games, which you can start doing after maybe a couple low organized games. You can do a high organized games, or after a couple weeks of the curriculum, you can start doing things a little bit more high organized. Once you know your student population, it gets a little bit easier to plan, but generally speaking, you want to think of how can I make a unified curriculum, especially for those first couple of weeks, that everyone can do. That way I'm not thinking about what do I need to do for these people. So another game you can get into when it comes to high organized games are beanbag, hula hoop, relay. So what I would do is I'd have everyone on this dark blue line. I'd put a hula hoop in front of the white line, and then I'd have them stand behind the blue line with a beanbag, and then what they do is they try to underhand toss the beanbag in the hula hoop. If they get it in, they flip it over, they go back, they go for the same one a little bit further away, and then every time they make it in the hula hoop, they flip it. So you'll see that the hula hoops gradually get longer and longer, and you're trying to see how far you can get the hula hoop to go. You can do that with disc as well. There's a game called Protect Your Food, where we can have tennis balls and beanbags all over the place, and everyone has their own hula hoop. And basically you go to other people's hula hoops or the middle, and you find an object and you run back and you bring it in your hula hoop. So basically the whole time, everyone's just fleeing and dodging each other, trying to get as much food as they can in the hula hoop. Loggers, you and a partner can hold on to a noodle, and then your other partner can try to jump over it, and then as they do that, you're kind of making it like a jump rope, and you're going down and see who can get all the way down and back. Call that loggers. You can also do that with a hula hoop, so you can put a hula hoop around someone, have them jump in it. Once they jump in it, you bring it up and over them, they jump in it again, bring it over them. So you got one person doing a squat, you got one person doing a jump, and it's a game. So it's basically hidden fitness. A lot of these games are a lot of hidden fitness games. Frogs Across the Pond, we can do this one. All right, go ahead and get in a group of 3 and grab 3 poly spots. 2 poly spots. Group of 3, 2 poly spots, and then line up on this dark blue line here, on this side. And then grab 3 poly spots for that group. And then spread out on this dark blue line here. Yep, keep going. All right, so the person in the front is gonna jump this way. We're gonna try to get to the other side, which is the other dark blue line. You gotta get all the way across it. So stand behind that dark blue line. You're gonna have the 2 people behind the leader. So 1 leader, 2 followers. The 2 followers are gonna be holding the poly spots. The person behind the leader is going to throw a poly spot or toss a poly spot right in front of the leader. They're gonna jump on it. The person behind the follower is going to do the same thing. So you are basically frogs across the pond on lily pads, and one person is jumping while the other people are laying out the pathway. So let's give an example for this first group. Okay, other person, and you gotta do it as quick as you can, but you're moving with him across the court. So no, you have to pick that up. Pick that up, pick it up, and you should have one too. Oh, that's right. So you gotta get ready to pick that up, yep. And then you would pick, It's all right, let's restart. go ahead and reset. Reset. All right, let's have all groups try that. Ready? Trying to get past the blue. Ready, go. There you go. There you go. Now, if you're done, you got to clap them up. So now we're just going to go over some fitness, and you can sit down if you want. We're going to go over some fitness and fitness and sport stations. So after the warm-up, you have your dance or kickboxing. Okay? Let's just make this nice and clear. So the first thing would be warm up. So that's in place, and that's dynamic. Then we're going to have either dance or kickboxing. Either or. Both will take about 10 minutes. You could do both if you wanted to, but I usually just do 10 minutes warm up. 10 minutes dance, and then I have a 10-minute low organized game. Just like we just went over. Like I said, we can do higher organized games like Frogs Across the Pond. After you kind of get to know them a little bit, you know how to teach and talk to them, I probably wouldn't just throw Frogs Across the Pond on the first day. But they will get it, and they will like it, and they'll love playing these games, but you kind of have to slowly go from low organized to high organized. You might get into more high organized games in week 3 when there's less students and there's more kind of one-on-one time for you to be able to coach them and teach them up. So after that, it's going to be either sport or fitness focused. Okay, and if I'm thinking fitness, I'm thinking stations. I want to make sure I have a push, a pull, a squat, hinge, and then I'm either going to have core or arms. Okay, and I try to keep that pretty simple. So you're either squatting at a station, hinging at a station, pushing something, pulling something, doing core, or doing some type of arm movement. Okay, and that kind of just limits and just tells you exactly what to focus on. When it comes to sport, I'm either going to do stations or I'm going to go individual first, partner or pairs, and then I'm going to do group / game. So when it comes to sport skills, the first thing I would do, let's just say we're teaching soccer, for example. First thing I'm going to do is, all right, everyone grab a ball, let's create a circle in the middle of the gym. First thing I want you to do is put the ball in between your legs. You gotta tell them exactly what you want them to do, or what do you think they're gonna do? Kicking the ball, bouncing the ball, throwing the ball, like you can't hear anything, you can't teach anything, nothing's gonna work. So you gotta set boundaries, you gotta set expectations. So I might say, everyone with the ball in between their feet. First thing we're gonna do is just kind of move around like a penguin. So they think, oh, well, we're here for a reason, but not really, okay? Then we're gonna go to toe taps. I just want you to touch the bottom of your foot on the ball. Then I wanna go to tick-tocks, just like a clock, side to side. I might have them try to move the ball across a line. So I might tell them, look at this line right here. I want you to pass the ball to each of your foot. The across that line, okay? Then I might say, all right, now we're gonna go ahead and dribble in space. I want you to try to dribble in space, keep the ball close to you, go slow. All right, now I want you to dribble a little bit faster. Freeze. When I say freeze, I want you to trap the ball. Dribble. Freeze. Just to see if they're paying attention, and then dribble a space, turn the music on, let them dribble, okay? Going over a couple exercises where we're just tapping and touching the ball to get them familiar with it. Could even be a heel to toe. Very simple, something that everyone can do. Now I want to have them dribble in space, okay? Dribble all over the court, all right? Same thing with basketball. First thing I might have them do is just take the basketball, go side to side, pass. Then I might have them do something like this one. I might have them do something like around the world. I might have them do scissors. Stuff that they can do in place. If they can't do scissors, I just want them to touch the ball to their knee. If they can't go around the waist, I just want them to go like this, okay? Let's just say I am teaching soccer or basketball. I might have them, if I'm a soccer player, who can use their hands in soccer? Goalie. So should I teach goalie skills? Yes. So there is a part in soccer where you use your hands if you're a goalie, so you should teach goalie skills. So I might have them reach across like this, high angles, horizontal angle, low angles, like that, okay? Just some easy skills they can do in place, individual skills. Then I'm gonna have them do partner skills. So if it's basketball, I'm gonna have you just start with a bounce pass. Okay, very specific. I'm not gonna say, all right, just pass it with your partner. That's not specific enough. Pass with your partner 10 feet away with a chest bounce pass using a one-step approach. Sometimes if you don't say that, people will just, they'll do an overhead throw, it'll be too quick, it'll be too hard for someone at first. And that's why you want to start with a bounce pass when it comes to basketball. Then you might go to an overhead bounce pass. Then you might go to just a regular chest pass, and then a regular overhead pass. You're going from maybe 10 feet away to 15 feet away, maybe making sure that you're changing the distance. Same thing with soccer. Partners or pairs, passing it with an instep, okay, if you're playing soccer. Maybe you're creating a triangle with a small group, and you're just focusing on passing. Then, after that, whether it's basketball, or soccer, volleyball, you're gonna start getting into groups and doing group stuff, whether that's group games or group skills. So you might get in a group with, say, 5 people, and you might be passing the ball around, and you might have one person in the middle who's trying to get the ball. We can get into bigger group games like sharks and minnows, so I could have all my students have a soccer ball, go on that side of the gym, and they have to dribble it this way, and I'm a shark, and I have to try to see if I can grab or kick one of their balls. If I do, they become a shark with me in the middle. You can play a game called Flies, where everyone dribbles around in space, and you point out 2 people, and you give them pennies, and all they try to do is just try to swipe the ball away from you and act kind of pesky like flies would. If you were dribbling a ball, basketball, if you were dribbling a soccer ball, we just call that flies. You play sharks and minnows. If you're playing volleyball, you can do something like 3v3 with a tennis net. You can do 2v2 playing pickleball. You could do some shooting games with soccer skills. So you can have the net set up around the courts for soccer. For basketball, you could have like a 3-on-3, 2-on-2. So basically, you go from individual skills for 10 minutes to partners or pairs, you're kind of working in small groups, and then you actually go to kind of like a modified version of the game. So this is what a 60-minute lesson plan would look like. You have a warm-up for 10 minutes, dance or kickboxing because it's fun and energetic and it involves music. Always want to have music somewhere in your lesson plan. 3 low-organized games, getting people working together, playing a game that's fun and dynamic. Then we're either going to do something for sports for 30 minutes or something with fitness. If it's fitness, I'm probably going to have 5 to 7 stations around the gym. What I would do if I was using this class, is I would have you stay at one station. So I might have Claire have her own station, and then we'd have the mentees kind of just circulate in a station style, like a circuit training, okay? When it comes to sports, we could do stations. We could have a dribbling station, a passing station, a shooting station, and then some type of accuracy station. Or we could do everything together, like I mentioned. Individual skills, partners, or pairs, and then groups or games. This is what I typically do with bigger groups because it's a lot harder for me to go to each station during the sports when they're doing different skills than if everybody was just doing the same thing, which I think they tend to like doing things as a group as opposed to being kind of separated from everybody in a small station. That's just what I've learned when it comes to teaching sports. So it feels more like a team practice as opposed to like mini sports skills inside, like looking at the bleachers, okay? When it comes to the fitness skills, you know, kettlebells, dumbbells, you can do things. Obviously, the easiest thing for someone to learn is just the bicep curl, okay? This would be the easiest thing to learn. A harder thing to learn is going to be the overhead press. You're going to notice that when people overhead press, they're going to want to use their back, or it'll look like this. You want to make sure that they keep their back straight if they are pressing. Okay, you could do a one-arm row. If you're doing like, if you're trying to work on your back. Because the one thing about teaching phys ed is that you don't have any, we got one pull-up bar that nobody's going to be able to reach. So you're not going to have everyone practice pull-ups. So what are there some pulling exercises I can do? I can do the one-arm row. I can do the two-arm row. I can get a battle rope, pull it with maybe some heavy equipment on it while it's sliding at a station. I can help a partner up a couple times as a group work activity. For pushing and push-ups, you can do things like the floor press. If we don't have a bench press, just like this, we have a station for floor pressing. Okay. You can also do those one-arm rows like this. Would be a little bit easier for them to get down onto. When it comes to weighting, like a squat, goblet squat, knees, elbows touch the knees. If they can't goblet squat, you might just go into a wall squat. A little bit easier. Okay, and it's static before dynamic when it comes to progressions. And then after that, you might go to, maybe after phase 2 or phase 3, you might go to like a split squat variation after you've done the goblet squat, let's just say for 4 weeks. How do you improve? You can go one-legged, split squat, deadlifts. I'd recommend using a kettlebell, bell in between the feet, and then you just cue them to bend over, try to keep those legs slightly straight, grip good, and then just stand up, okay? So just a kettlebell, deadlift is what I would recommend for the hinge. Push-up pattern, I would have them do either a floor press or push-up pull or push-up. For back exercises, I'd have them either do the one-arm row, or we do have bands that we can hook up where they could actually do some pull downs, but we'd have to hook them up to those high pulls, which would be pretty hard to do. So you gotta be creative when you think about overhead pulling down if you're in the gym. Other than that, you can do the downward dog pull or push up. When it comes to exercises like core exercises, you can do some pal-off presses with the bands. So we do have some bands down here if we do get into stations in a couple weeks. And then arm exercises, dumbbell curl. On your back, you can do a closed chest press if you wanted to hit triceps. Okay, you could also do tricep just like that. You could also your triceps, your kickbacks, stuff like that. So those would be like the easiest exercises I would teach people with disabilities. If you're in a wheelchair and you're just seated, you might have them do some shoulder halos just like that. You might have them do some more one-arm stuff to take up a little bit more time if you're utilizing a wheelchair. And then basically, we talked about sports, we talked about the fitness stations, and we talked about a lot of the different activities that we're going to be teaching. So really just want to kind of show you what we'll be working with, get the music out so you can kind of get a feel for how I'm going to set up. What I will ask everyone to do next week is help me get the equipment out and help me put it back, okay? I think that's it.